Perfect. Looks like we are ready to go. Hello.
So sorry.
No worries, things happen. So, um, I just so that way in the for the sake of time, I'll do a quick intro to our program, but we'll keep it short and sweet and then pass it over to you to get started. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for your patience this morning. Really appreciate it. As we kind of has go through some technical difficulties on our side. So, but thank you all for, like I said, for being patient and bearing with us. So my name is Audrey Miller. I am the program manager for the Colorado Small Business Development Center Network's SBDC Tech Source Commercialization Program. Quite a mouthful. And I really would love to welcome you all this morning to learn more about the Navy's SBIR and STTR programs. So if you'd like to learn more about the Colorado SBDC Tech Source Commercialization Program and some of the services we offer, like support with SBIR, STTR proposals, and anywhere else from R&D tax credits, government accounting, IP protection, things like that, I'll drop a link in the chat in just a moment. But otherwise, Shadi, I'll pass it. That's how you say it, right? I just want to confirm.
You are one of the very few people that pronounce my name correctly, so
Oh,
thank you.
wow.
Yes, thank you. Yes,
Oh
it
my
is
gosh, what an honor.
Shaddy are the best way, and it's super corny, but it works. It rhymes with daddy or caddy, so people get that. But no, you pronounce it perfectly. Thank you.
Of course. Amazing. Well, perfect. Well, then I'll pass it over to you to kind of get started. And then I just like to remind everyone there is a Q&A function. So as questions pop up, we'll have some time to answer a few at the end. And then otherwise, Shadi, go ahead and get started.
Okay, and hopefully, Audrey, can you confirm you could see my slides?
Yep, we can see him perfect.
Fantastic. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for bearing with me on my technical difficulties that I had. Email issues are never a fun thing, but hopefully this would be the way would be worth it by giving you all an overview of the SBIR SCTR program. As Audrey mentioned, the things that we do cover here are Navy focused, or generally what we at the Navy do. But one thing you'll kind of common see is that across the different agencies that do this program, Navy being under DoD and DoD one of the 11, we do things pretty consistently. So I will move forward to the next slide. Let's see. Perfect. Okay, so this is me. I like to keep that on there. I need to update my headshot because I did a weight loss transformation. So I keep that on there as a reminder of how like things are still great right now. So, but I am one of the 8 different SBIR, SCTR program managers under Navy. I do have a slide that will cover what that looks like. But one of the 8, we each have our own SBIR, SCTR budget with our own focus areas, but a little bit more on that later. So for those that are not familiar with the SBIR SCTR program, I think it was best to introduce the concepts to everyone here. SBIR, which stands for Small Business Innovation Research, and Small Business Technology Transfer, are 2 long-standing small business programs that provide seed funding to help develop innovative research and development to address government needs, but also to promote commercialization. This is like one of the good things that I do enjoy about this program, having been administered by the Small Business Administration. The goal here is to help you as a small business grow, but also at the same time build your portfolio to have more government projects. The difference between SBIRs and SCTRs comes down to a partnering engagement. It's a very subtlety that's within the 2 programs itself. For SBIR, if you are a small business, you have the freedom and the discretion to subcontract the work to a research institution or a large business. Those are 2 of the main subcontractors, but you could essentially subcontract to many as long as the small business performs the majority of the work. But for STTR, it is a requirement that the small business must subcontract the work to a research institution like a university. Specifically, the university has to do at least 30% of the work, whereas the small business has to do at least 40%. A lot of folks ask us how, when you do post opportunities in either of those venues, how do you determine whether it's SBIR and SCTR? And really, because we know that SCTR incorporates a university element, a lot of the topics that you will see under SCTR tend to gravitate towards something that there isn't necessarily some work done performed in that arena, that it is more research based, that it is more a product development, if you will. SBIRs and STTRs are competitive three-phase programs. We do not give the funding all at once. There is certain layers of competition, if you will, and we'll talk of what those phases are. But it is a very competitive program. We at the Navy take that very seriously. I've heard some, whenever I go to outreach events or I do speaking engagements, I do hear some misconceptions of that SBIR and STTRs can favor certain companies. At the Navy, we treat that very strongly. We want everyone to have an opportunity to compete in this program, no matter if you are not familiar with it at all, working with the government whatsoever, or you're an experienced one. So each one has that opportunity or that equitability to participate in the program. This is slide 4, summarizes the eligibility requirements. I did this at a very high level, but small businesses must be for profit, owned and operated in the United States, and be less than 500 employees. Any of the work must also be performed here in the US if you do get an SBIR or STTR award, and the work must be research and development. We take that also very seriously because the program is really meant to develop something, not purchase something. So have a product or a technology and you're thinking about participating in this program, it's a little challenging to do because you've already developed it. There are other avenues to go about doing that, which I can cover a little bit later. We just recently introduced, for example, an open topic. I do have a slide that talks a little bit or a snippet about that. But that's one opportunity if it's something not from ground zero developing. Slide 5 covers why engage it on both ends. On a government side, there is an incentive for us to use this program. As you'll see with how I'll talk about the different phases, there's an opportunity for us as the government to get a survey of all the various solutions. We're not picking just one particular company when we push out a topic. We're making multiple awards at first and then proceeding on for further competition. But that initial opportunity for us to make multiple awards gives us the variety of solutions for us to pick and choose from. Another thing is that we use this program because it's starting from an early maturity level for you to develop something. It allows us to think ahead. A lot of times I tell a lot of government reps and senior leadership, like, think of this program as like a savings or investment account. You're investing into your future by investing into products or technologies that you would be adopting later. And then if you've ever heard of government contracts and how painful it is to do a quote sole source where you're the only recipient of an award, that is a little easier throughout the SBIR process and the STTR process, just because of the competitive nature of the program. On the small business side, it does build credibility of your portfolio. We've seen so many companies that have quote graduated from this program. If you've heard about Qualcomm or 23andMe, both of them actually got their start using this program way before my time. But they are two good examples that you commonly see and how they flourished as a result of a program like this. Another great thing about this program is that as a small business, you can retain data rights for a specific period of time. That protects you in the event that a large business might pick up what you have developed. So that is a very key feature that we do promote. It is a non-renewable 20-year period. I believe I have a slide later on that talks a little bit about that. Okay. Slide 6 shows all of the 11 different federal agencies that does this program. So Navy falls under Department of Defense. So all of the policy procedures that the DoD issues, we do a derivative of that. But as you can see, there are many different opportunities and many different agencies, each with their own respective budget and their own focus areas, that as a small business, you have a wealth of opportunities to find. And those that have the circle on the bottom right are those that participate in the STTR program. It does come down to a quote budget that they have. Okay, so under Navy, we do have 8 different commands, if you will, that have our own SBIR and STTR budget. They have people just like myself, and they have their own focus areas on what they're looking for. And each of us has our own respective area of responsibility or a domain. For example, within Navy, all of the cyber or the information dominance capabilities, if you will, that are within the cyber realm fall under my command at NavWar. If you're thinking about aircrafts or something that would be applied on aircrafts, NavAir, which is the second block that's here, is that sort of entity that handles that. Any of our submarines, for example, fall under NavC. And each of us has our own different area. If you'd like more information, we have plenty of information on our website. It's the NavySBIR.com website. I'll also put in the chat while we're answering questions some helpful videos that my command specifically has made to help navigate this arena as far as identifying the right customer for you. This is a slide that shows how our funding is generated. It is a tax on our own funding. And if you remember, I did talk about how SBIR and STTR is kind of like an investment or a savings account. This is kind of like that case here. We allocate a specific portion of our own funding to dedicate to this program. So that happens across the board. It is a, quote, tax on our own funding. To get started or to start this whole process with SBIR and STTR, it comes down to what we call a topic. We post topics within the Navy 3 times a year. I think we are in the works of potentially transitioning that to 2 times a year. Again, this falls under Department of Defense. But I guess the key takeaway is that we release topics at a regular cycle. For now, we post topics 3 times a year, but we also have a, quote, rolling topic submission where if you subscribe to the mailing list on the hyperlink that you see here, you can get immediate notifications when we might post a topic outside of the 3 traditional cycles. But typically we do release those in April, August, and November. That's the bulk of it. Again, the website does have a mailing list that you could subscribe, and you could find those topics that might appeal if you'd like to apply to them. Each of those topics, though, they describe what is it that we are looking for, what our focus areas are. So it's a very key informational piece to find out or to answer the question, what is it that we're looking for? And then when a topic has been posted, we have up to 90 days as the government to evaluate the proposals that have been submitted. And then we make our first set of awards within 180 days of that close date. Whenever we post a topic for the very first time, it starts a 30-day period called a pre-release period. If there's any advice that I could give to anyone that participates in this program, it is to capitalize on the first 30 days that we post the topic, because it's that period where you can directly contact our topic authors. We have their contact information listed in each of the topics via email or by phone to get clarification on the questions. We understand that developing a proposal does take time and resources and a lot of energy that goes into those things. And I think you can save yourself some time to determine whether or not a topic is worth submitting, or to write a better proposal if you do intend on submitting, by capitalizing on that time for 30 days to actually ask questions to those topic authors. And then once those 30 days has elapsed, you can ask questions, but they are posted publicly, as well as their answers are posted publicly during what we call the open period, which is between open and close. But during the open and close dates that are listed there, that open period, you can submit your proposal. I mentioned that this is a competitive 3-phase program. So when topics are posted publicly on our broad agency announcement located on the DoD website, it kickstarts this whole phase structure that you see here. So I mentioned that the benefit of having this program for the government is that we are able to have a variety of solutions. That's what phase 1 is all about. So think of phase 1 as a teaser trailer to a movie. It gives the government a snippet of information from you as a small business to tell us how to develop or what you intend on doing if you did receive funding to develop a product. A good example, like, and I'm just throwing out there because I'm obsessed with them, but electric vehicles, right? Let's suppose that the government is pushing out a topic that is looking for an electric vehicle to adopt or to transition, as we call it. That we post that topic, describe exactly what we're looking for the electric vehicle, and then several different quote companies would respond to phase one with their design, which is kind of like what the product is at phase one of what they intend on doing should they receive the funding to get to the next phases. So as you see from phase one, it's between 6 to 12 months. The amount of funding that we provide is just enough to give a report or feasibility study that proves that you are responding to our topic and that you are developing or you're showcasing how your proposed solution meets the topic. And then those companies that do get the phase one awards, we typically do about 3 to 4 phase one awards. Those companies then move to the next phase, which we select which of those will get the phase two award. So think of it as topic gets released, 3 to 4 phase one awards, followed by usually it's one or 1 to 2 phase two awardees from that set of phase one. But as you can see from the phase two amount and the duration, it's a significant amount of funding that we then give to have those companies that did get the phase one the opportunity to expand on their feasibility study to develop a prototype. And then phase three is not something that is funded by our program. It's kind of like a state, but essentially those companies that do get a phase one or a phase two can go to a phase three award, which is the sole source award that extends or transitions the work that you've been performed. Anything within phase three is funded using non-SBIR dollars. So if you think about it, the government program that first championed and first wrote the topic, their intent is to use the SBIR program for phases one and two to give them a snippet or an idea of what product has been developed. And then phase three is when that government program will transition the products and then use their own funding to carry it forward. So again, phase one, two, think of it as it's still funded by our program, but it's used as a boost or a seed funding for those small businesses to give the government and programs enough time and planning to then plan and then fund for phase threes. There are different ways of entering this program. I did mention or alluded to a little bit earlier about our open topic, but I think that a good thing that has been introduced in our policy directive issued by SBA is that we don't have to start from topic phase one, two, and three. There are shortcuts. And I like to think of this past slide as like a highway, and there are multiple ways to enter into the highway. So there are two other opportunities that exist that can enter into this highway where you don't have to start from looking at a topic and then moving forward to phase one, two, and three. And those two sub-bullets, one is called direct to phase two. One is called a reach back or a subsequent. We actually recently just changed the terminology to the word catapult. But those are two other opportunities aside from the vanilla approach that I mentioned in the last slide to where it goes from topic all the way down to phase three. For some of our topics that we do post in a broad agency announcement, we call that, there's another type of topic called a direct to phase two. Essentially, it operates the same way, but the companies that do receive an award don't start at phase one, they start at phase two. The contingency here is that if you're a small business and you look at a topic that is termed direct to phase two, you as a business had to already completed some phase one type of work on your own. So this is an appropriate topic type that I would say are for those topics where we do know that companies out there are working in this field. So it doesn't make sense necessarily to start at a phase one where we do know we can go straight to a prototype development because we know something's out there. So that is a key, I'd say, difference, but it's a type of topic and it just shaves off about a year in the cycle or the process that I alluded to 2 slides ago. And this is slide 4, talks about our catapult opportunity, which is something that we've always done. We just changed the terminology if you're familiar with Navy SBIR. If you're familiar with Air Force and how they do SBIR, you've probably heard of the words TACFI and STRATFI. And if you've been a particular or heard of the Army SBIRs, they call it Catalyst. We call it Catapult. We had a lot of fun making the names. But essentially, there is an opportunity anytime that you, as a small business, have received a phase 1 or a phase 2 award. It doesn't have to be within Navy, it doesn't have to be within DoD, but anytime you've received some funding to do a project, any other agency can pick it up for a follow-on award without competition. So here's a good example. If you saw a topic that deals with cybersecurity and you submitted a proposal in response to the Department of Homeland Security, they're one of the 11 participants. And then let's suppose me within NavWar, we do have a cybersecurity office, and you as a business, you've received phase 1, you've received a phase 2 from the Department of Homeland Security. Based on that solution, I at NavWar can pick it up if there's some relevance. I don't have to go through a topic. I can actually leverage your phase 2 award and give that company another phase 2 to sort of adopt or extend the work that they performed. We think that is a great shortcut with this program because it's not code reinventing the wheel. We are leveraging work that's being done across the different agencies and shortening the time frame for us to adopt something. Of course, there are some contingencies and some limitations to this. There has to be some relevance. So if you are, it doesn't have to be the exact one-for-one application, but if the core capability itself that you developed is something that we can leverage, that's certainly an opportunity to use this avenue. And there's also the limitation that as a company, you cannot receive no more than 2 phase 2 awards per topic. So that's something to just keep in mind. I always ask folks that come to talk to us that if you've been awarded SBIRs in the past, by all means, share like a list or pull together a list, maybe as like a good side project within your small business, to have that list ready to showcase to other government customers, because that helps in more ways for us to adopt a previous award than to issue a brand new topic and go through the motions of that. I mentioned about data rights. I could talk another hour about data rights, but this is a high-level summary of what we include in our contracts. All of our contracts within SBIR and STTR for DoD falls under the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR, and we have a specific clause, and these bullets summarize that clause in a little bit more layman's terms. But from the date of the first, or I guess from the first start date of your first SBIR and STTR award, it starts a clock for 20 years for which you as a small business hold rights. And the great way of summarizing this is the government can use your products, but we can't give it to any non-government entity. It has to stay within the government realm. So we can't take it, for example, to a large business that we might have an existing relationship. That is still confined to only government personnel, and if you develop any software, confined to only using government systems. So again, this is something that is an appeal if you are a small business underneath this program to make sure that your intellectual property is preserved. We recently reauthorized our program. I believe we have 1 more year until the program gets reauthorized, but there were some changes that we introduced to our processes. The first 2 kind of go hand in hand. There's in the congressional analysis of our program, there have been concerns that the products that have been developed underneath this program could have some affiliations with foreign countries or foreign affiliations, or have certain investments where a small business might not disclose if they have or are invested by a foreign entity that isn't US based. So the 2 bullets that you see here go hand in hand to describe that we do include some disclosures, or you as a small business have disclosed to us what exactly are your relationships with any foreign entities, if any. The last bullet is something that we did one cycle last year, and we are continuing to do it every single year. We actually have one coming up this month that I highly encourage you to subscribe to the GOD mailing list so you can get notification of it. And that's our open topic. Traditionally, with all of our topics that we post before open topics, we are looking for a very specific capability need. And the best way to describe that is you as industry or you as a small business are hearing us. The open topic reverses that approach. It's we give you as a small business a general focus area of what our area or our realm that we're looking for, but we're more like hearing you out. And the good thing about open topics is that we accept any maturity level to it. So if it's something that you haven't quite developed a prototype, we accept those. If you develop something with a mature, we call it a manufacturing readiness level, but something at an 8 or 9, if you're familiar with that terminology, where it's very mature as a product, we can definitely accept those. So it widens the aperture for the applicants to submit. Again, we can't disclose for all fairness what those topics are, but please, 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 if you haven't already, subscribe to the DoD mailing list so you get notifications of those. One other thing that Navy does that's a little unique is that we do accept proposals from majority-owned venture capital firms or those that are majority owned by private equity firms. So do kind of keep that in mind if that's a characteristic of your company. And this is my last slide before I answer questions that you might have. These are some strategies that I always indicate or share with roadshows like this. While we cannot create or develop a topic specifically for a small business in the interest of fairness, we are always open to hearing any ideas that you might have. So as small business program managers or SBIR program managers, we can connect you with those program offices that do release topics. And if there's something that you're just not quite finding that's out there, but you still believe that's something that the Navy's looking for, we can help connect you to those respective programs to help us inspire or create some topics. That's a really, I would say, the limitation, just to make sure it's in all fairness. The next bullet is something that I kind of alluded to earlier. If you do have a portfolio of SBIR, STTR awards, please let us know what those awards are. We can take a look at them. We can engage with the government POCs that you might engage with if you've had those awards with and get more information to kind of go through what I call the catapult opportunity a little bit earlier. We do have a wealth of resources on our public websites. Honestly, if you just search NAVWAR, you can get a good information about it. I will also include a link, as I mentioned, in the chat if you wanted to check out some of our videos that we've created, as well as some resources to get a little familiarity about what we do. And then last but not least, it's really important that if you've never participated in this program, that you do the prerequisites before you submit a proposal. One of that is sam.gov, and to make sure that you are registered there. Don't wait to the last minute, or don't wait to the minute where you want to submit a proposal. That probably would set yourself up just in case there are technical difficulties for the opposite of success in this case. So that, I think, is all of my slides. So I will stop sharing and I will stop talking and give it to Audrey.
I realize I need to come off mute to be able to come back on. Um, so perfect. Well, thank you so much for going over that. That was a great, yeah, I think a great overview. Yeah, there is a few questions now, and then if anyone has more questions as we're kind of answering, definitely please feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A, I guess. So the first question we had is, how can a Navy employee request a topic?
Yeah, so depending on where that Navy employee falls under which command, so if it's like a NAVWAR employee under my command, they would submit their topic to my office directly. And the same goes across the Navy. It depends on which command it falls under, and they would need to contact that program manager to submit their topic.
Perfect. And then somebody said they had submitted an application for release 24-1. It has been more than 90 days, but they haven't heard back. Does that mean it's still pending?
If that's one of the Navy ones. So two things on that. One, check your junk mail. All of our notifications are come from an email that ends in at navycyberprogram.com. So do check that usually falls under junk mail. And the second thing I would say is that the same individuals that submitted the proposal are the ones that would get the notification. We've had cases where I think it was they didn't know who would receive those notifications. So be mindful of who those email addresses first submitted it or what they registered with, because they'll get that notification. And if that doesn't work, contact one of, like, depending on which command it falls under, you can contact our POC that I put it on the hyperlink on one of the slides, which I'm happy to share right after this.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. And then on open topic, someone said they missed what you had said about technical readiness level requirement. Did you say that it must be an 8 to a 9?
It can be 8 to 9, but we can accept throughout the entire maturity levels of that. That we say is that open topic is a great opportunity if you do have a product that is in that maturity level.
Perfect. And then where can someone find more information related to the patent rights under the SBIR STTR programs?
So SBIR.gov is universal. It's a great, I think they have a couple of videos too. I can also say that in every one of the contracts, should you do get it, there's also information that we do include specifically to patent rights. But those are two resources that I would say to go to.
And then have SBIR awards been granted for medical devices for service members and or veterans, or are they all weapon related?
So yes, but not necessarily under Navy. So there's also Department of Health and Human Services, and underneath it is Defense Health Agency, if I know my organizational chart. And that, I think, is like one entity that's cross services. There is also Office of Naval Research. It's one of the 8. It was on the left-hand side. Office of Naval Research does tap into a little bit of medical, but generally, we're more on the tactical side of things.
I was gonna say, I do know that like Army and stuff will also do that as well. So I do know, yeah. So unfortunately, it's kind of looking for a needle in a haystack sometimes and looking at like all the different agencies and where
Right.
you can fit in.
Exactly.
And then someone said, you mentioned reaching out about ideas to present to the Navy outside solicitation windows. Do you have a directory of contacts?
Yeah, so if you go to, I put it in the chat, but at navysbir.com has our POCs that are listed on there. That I will include that in the chat. Yeah, what that is, but that's the direct, if you want to get a hold of myself, we actually have a group email address, but my counterparts also have something there too.
Perfect. And then someone said, where can I find current/former solicitations? The link here doesn't seem to be working.
So I guess we ended in 15, right, Audrey?
Yeah, we have 15 minutes.
Okay, good. Let me make sure I have. So if I can actually share my screen if that helps, but I
Yeah.
will include this. So let me answer. I can type the answer. So this is the main website. I think I put it under the answered if anyone wants to go on there now. But to see, sharing my screen. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see this. This is the DoD SBIR website. And if you go to, hopefully they change, but there's the topics and topic Q&A, but you can actually sort, like these are all the ones that are open right now, but I think you can close it and see all the ones that have actually closed itself that are down below. You could even filter, actually we can check the ones that are closed, and then, yeah, so this is all of them there. You can also go, hopefully this retains it, but if you go to SBIR.gov, I believe it's under solicitations, and it might be under, yeah, you could receive all the past ones across the 11 different agencies that are listed there, if you are interested. So that's another avenue to go about doing it. And then for those folks that would like to see just our website, so if you go to navysibir.com and you go to our contacts, that's where you'll see all of our names and our email addresses that are listed there if you want to get a hold of us.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the SBIR.gov as well, because I know you can see every past award, every, project, open solicitation, everything in like one central database across like all of the agencies. But yeah, and then I know every agency also has their own. So
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, Perfect.
I
And
think
then,
I think I
oh,
also see that. No, I think I see the next question too that I could probably summarize. So if you
yeah,
are going to operate it in the US, but you're sourcing some of the materials, I think that should be sufficient. I would still take a look at sometimes their solicitations Dove has certain restrictions. So do keep that in mind. But generally that seems to be fine as long as your business entity and the work that's being performed is done inside the United States. But sourcing the materials is what we understand could be outside. And then I
perfect.
think the last one is the phasing timeline similar to other agencies or reflective of the Navy. So the 3 cycles is universal to Navy, but we do have the open topic. It's if you're familiar with their cycle numbers, like we do .1, .2, .3 for DoD. There's something called .4, and .4 is where like it's our catch-all where we put all of our like rolling topic submissions there. But it is similar within Navy, but it's different for other agencies. So different ways to do it. And I think Audrey just pointed it out. SBIR.gov also has ways where you could subscribe to like when that's across the board, across all 11, but they each have different ones when you're talking about outside of DoD.
Perfect. All right. And then that was the last question we had in there. So if anyone has any other last questions, as we start to wrap up, definitely, yeah, get them in now. So, yeah, is there anything else that you want to add before we yeah, close everything up?
Just make sure you subscribe to that DoD mailing list. Our open topic is this month. So that's once a year that we do develop. So do kind of if you miss that opportunity, I'm going to shift you to next year.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and then as a quick, little plug for the tech source commercialization program as well. This is quite literally our job is to help people with their proposals, help them identify solicitations, guide them through that process. So if anyone has any other questions, in regards to putting together their proposal, things like that too, definitely register in the link that I dropped earlier. And we can help support you through that process as well. But I know the agencies are always so helpful with questions and all of that as well. So, well, thank you so much for being here today. And really, really thankful for it. And yeah, thanks so much. And hope everyone has a great rest of their Thursday.
Bye. Thank you, Audrey.
Yeah, thanks so much.